Just the News president and CEO is with us. John Solomon, a good friend of ours. Full disclosure, I've represented John in legal matters before, and I'm always available to give John legal advice. And he gives me good information. And, John, I want to get you and I have been talking a lot the last few days. I've given my assessment of kind of where things are right now, which, it's unusual that you get a judge that's going to maybe issue a redacted version of this affidavit, but then the government saying we're in the beginning stages of it, and yet in the beginning stages of it, they went and raided the former president's house. But what are you hearing, and what's your analysis so far?
Listen, I think you hit it on the head with that description. Think about this. The government's current position is at the beginning of an investigation where they don't have a lot of clarity where they're headed. They already decided they were going to raid a former president's home. That is shocking. And I think another thing they said in their motions that jumped out is, we've been told this is all about records, a records dispute over classified records and presidential records. But then they made a reference that if we have to release this affidavit, we're going to jeopardize other ongoing investigations. So wait, are there other things that we don't know about? And was that search actually about those other investigations? As I dig deeper, start talking to law enforcement, there's a growing feeling that maybe this very broad search warrant, which was, pitched as a look for presidential records, may have had some other motives, looking for some other evidence that could benefit a case like January 6th or alternate electors. I think that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, once you get in there, you and I have talked about this. Once you get in there, a lot of mischief can happen. You get information, and it may lead to another, quote, alleged crime. Now, to be clear, to get a search warrant, you have to be able to establish to a judge that should have recused himself, a probable cause that a crime has been committed. And I still can't figure out, John, you and I talked about this last night. I still can't, maybe it'll happen today or tomorrow or Monday, but I still can't figure out why no one has moved to recuse this judge who recused himself from a civil case involving the former president and the former Secretary of State, had Facebook postings that were hostile to the president, and yet signs the search warrant. And I would have said, gee, you know what? That judge is out. Suppress the evidence would be the next motion. And that's how I would do it. And that's not what's been done so far. Maybe we'll learn. Because there may be a strategy that I'm not thinking of here of why that hasn't been done. I still don't get that, John.
Yeah, listen, a lot of legal experts I've talked to agree with you 100%. It seems like the president seems a little slow on this. There may be some things that we don't know about involving privilege or other things, but I'm hearing that in the next few days that we might see that strike come, the first strike. If I had to guess what they do, I think they leapfrog the magistrate, go to the U.S. District Court senior judge, ask for a judge to be appointed, and then ask for a special master to say, you know what, I don't trust the FBI to be going through documents that they now admit were privileged, my passports that they had that they shouldn't have taken. I want a professional, independent person deciding what the FBI can and can't look at from this search warrant raid. And I think that's probably what we're going to see.
The special master, and I've had experience with this, allows the FBI not to be in control of the documents and the release of the documents. And I think that fundamentally is a question. We're getting a lot of calls, John, that are coming in, and some of these I think would be really good for you. Let's go to line 5. Lewis, go ahead. You're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
This reminds me of what Comey did by sending those two agents in the early days of Trump's administration, because he laughed about it and said, because I can get away with it. And I think these people believe they can get away with this and just have no penalty to pay because of what they did.
Well, look, James Comey bragged about that. It was the first days of the Trump administration. We got in to see Flynn. Normally, we'd have to get clearance from the White House counsel. We didn't do it because they were disorganized. Here you got it. John, is kind of the flip side. I don't want to get Harry and Wes comment on this. It's the flip side of saying, well, we're early in the investigation, but we're going to go into the president's personal residence.
It's stunning. And, there's a new poll out today that shows that trust in the FBI is at an all-time low. I think that's one of the long-term dangers. The more the FBI overreaches, the more the FBI ends up having to reverse itself in cases, the more the American public lacks trust in an agency that's really important to our security. This is a national crisis, I think, coming, the lack of trust in one of our most important agencies.
Harry?
Well, I agree. I think one of the big issues is the range and reach of the deep state. So one of the fundamental questions, I think, in this particular case is, did the FBI lie about the purpose of the raid? And so, John, have you heard anything about that?
You know what? It's really unclear what the purpose is, right? And I think when you hear these offhand remarks that occurred in connection with this hearing yesterday, and they're talking about it's really early, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like they have a very clear case. There's other cases that this might be impacting. Wait a second, we thought this was a single case. I don't know. I had a great opportunity to talk to one of the great FBI executives of the past, Kevin Brock, former intelligence chief for the FBI, worked for Bob Mueller. And he said he's never seen a search warrant written this broadly. It basically says any document between January 2017 January could be seized. The FBI manual always says you should be as narrow as possible. He believes that this search warrant, once challenged, if the president were to challenge it, will be struck down as overly broad and as a fishing expedition. And that's a former G-man, a guy who believes in the FBI, supports it. He has grave concerns how broad.
Of course, to do that, you actually have to file a motion to quash the subpoena, which thus far has not materialized. You know me, John. I would have been pounding that table that night. I would have found a federal judge that would have heard me that night and said, this is absurd. This judge should have recused himself. This magistrate judge, he shouldn't have been part or parcel of this. Let's go to Bob in Michigan on line 6. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the broadcast. You're on the air.
Well, thank you for taking my call. I thought that the government's argument in keeping the affidavit sealed was that to reveal any part of it would be to reveal all of it.
Yeah.
And so if the judge allows any part of it to be revealed other than the name of an agent undercover, why not let all of it be revealed?
Because here's what they're really saying, right, John? They're saying that you can't release this information at all. That's what the government's position is, because it might impact, John, other investigations.
Yeah, I think that's right. And by the way, if it wasn't the president, they'd still be making that argument. I've seen that argument made every time a search warrant affidavit is challenged in court. That's the position they take, the default position. It'll be interesting to see. I was surprised the judge was as open to doing this as he was.
Yeah.
And we don't know his motive, but it's a very interesting take for a judge to do that. Almost always these things get rejected.
Yeah, I'm taking your phone calls at 1-800-684-3110, 800-684-3110. Wes, John was talking about the distrust of the FBI. Yeah. You've got members of Congress distrusting the FBI right now, including Charles Grassley.
Oh, yeah. And you've got, I think, a majority of the American people, even those who are not Republicans and not Trump supporters, who are questioning, whether or not you can trust the nation's premier law enforcement agency. John, I appreciate your reporting, because this is just a really, really bad look, because it looks like the administration is using a government bureaucracy to target a political opponent, and that's just a bad look writ large, don't you think?
I do. And here's the other thing I don't think is going to hold up long term. I don't think we're going to see I think we're going to see evidence that the White House the Biden White House was somehow involved in the origins or early discussions of this criminal case. That's going to shake everybody's confidence even more in the FBI. What is the White House doing in this? I'm hearing more and more evidence about that. That's quite early on. The White House said, we knew nothing about this. It'll be interesting to see if that story holds up. I'm starting to get some inkling that it won't.
All right, John, if people want to get information about Just the News, what's the best place to go?
Listen, justthenews.com, 24/7. We've got you covered. And then Jay Solomon Reports is my handle on all social media. We put every story up on the social handle that we put up on Just the News.
Great. John Solomon, great investigative reporter, good friend of ours. Glad to have you on. John, thanks for being with us.